The FBI in Birmingham, Alabama is snubbing its nose at the House Judiciary Committee, which has oversight authority over the FBI. The FBI was supposed to respond by 5 p.m. last Friday, April 19th, to a letter from the Judiciary Committee. It's now April 23rd, and the FBI is silent. I wonder what the FBI is hiding. So let me give you some background. Let's rewind. Last June, Natalee Holloway's killer, Joran van der Sloot, was brought to the United States after her mother, Beth, and I pursued him for years. And then a few months later, in October of last year, van der Sloot pleaded guilty to wire fraud and extortion, but not to murder. He was not charged with murder. There is no doubt in my mind that van der Sloot did kill Natalee, but he left out a whole lot of details in that very fuzzy confession he made last October. But I'll leave that for a future date. In the meantime, since the case is now closed, there is a question the FBI needs to answer. Why, in Aruba in 2010, right after van der Sloot committed the extortion crime in front of the FBI during a sting operation, didn't they arrest him? Making this failure alarming is that when van der Sloot was not arrested, he slipped out from the FBI's supposed 24/7 surveillance, traveled 1,800 miles to Peru, where he killed again Stephanie Flores, age 21. Before he slipped the FBI, and on Mother's Day, May 9, 2010, John Q. Kelly, lawyer for Beth Holloway and an old friend of mine, arrived at the Aruban airport. His purpose, his role in the planned FBI sting operation of van der Sloot. Prior to the sting, van der Sloot and Kelly had been exchanging emails. Van der Sloot said, which is extortion, that he would tell the mother of the then 5-year missing Natalee, where she could find her daughter's remains, but only if she paid him $250,000. Kelly called the FBI, and the plans for this FBI sting began. The FBI arrived in Aruba days before Kelly. The FBI had received permission from Aruban authorities to conduct the sting in their country. The FBI rented hotel rooms at the Marriott Hotel on the beach. One room was wired with cameras to catch van der Sloot in the act of extorting Beth Holloway through her lawyer, John Q. Kelly. They were in the adjacent hotel room. The FBI agents watched the entire crime of extortion go down. A rental car was likewise wired. As Kelly, after giving van der Sloot in a hotel room a down payment on the $250,000 with the FBI watching, would then be driving van der Sloot to the location where van der Sloot would be pointing out the fictitious spot where Natalee Holloway was buried. Everybody knew that was a lie. The sting operation, though, it went down flawlessly. Kelly did a perfect job, even getting van der Sloot to slowly count the down payment of that money in that hotel room so that van der Sloot remained on camera for a long time while the FBI watched, and so a future jury could watch the crime that was recorded. With Joran taking the money, the crime of extortion was complete. All caught on tape, all in front of the FBI. Nothing more was needed other than an arrest of van der Sloot. The day after the sting, May 11th, the FBI put Kelly on a plane to return to the United States. But just as on May 10th, after the crime was committed in front of the FBI, van der Sloot was not arrested that day on May 11th, the next day, nor was he arrested on May 12th, not on May 13th, not on May 14th. And as the days continued, van der Sloot just wasn't arrested. The FBI told Kelly, be patient, they're working on it. Most significantly, one of the agents told Kelly, who then told me, and I'll never forget this, that Kelly need not worry since the FBI had van der Sloot under 24/7 surveillance. I remember that because it was so important. I knew van der Sloot was a killer. I also knew he now had money, the substantial sum of money from Kelly they'd gotten in the hotel room with the FBI watching and taping. I knew from years of covering van der Sloot that not only is he evil, he's very smart. So the days rolled on. They continued to roll on. Still no arrest by the FBI. 11 days after the sting, with still no arrest, Kelly was very frustrated, as was I. Kelly finally received an email from one of the FBI agents still in Aruba 11 days later after the sting. It shows Kelly's frustration with the fact van der Sloot was still not arrested 11 days later. The FBI email reads, quote, "My BlackBerry lost voice comms yesterday, so I'm on my computer," end of quote. The suggestion was that the FBI agent could not return the calls that Kelly had been making, and that suggestion was absurd. There was a telephone in every single room in that hotel. He didn't have to use his BlackBerry to call Kelly, and he also could have used one of the other agent's BlackBerry phones, so that was a dodge. Well, there's more to that agent's email. It reads, "Still putting the case together." Do you buy that? I don't. Still putting the case together 11 days later. The entire crime was completed when it was captured on FBI cameras with the FBI watching and van der Sloot when he left the hotel room. So about 2 weeks later, I found myself, though, in the living room, way far away in Lima, Peru, with a sobbing and inconsolable father. Here's what happened. 4 days after the May 10th sting operation. On May 14th, well, Van Sloot checked into Hotel TAC in Lima, Peru. He did so 5 days after the May 10th sting, while the FBI was claiming it was still collecting evidence of a completed crime, and while claiming Van Sloot was under surveillance 24/7. Van Sloot was 1,764 miles away in Peru. No arrest had been made by our FBI, so the unthinkable, Van Sloot murdered again in Peru. Joran met 21-year-old Stephanie Flores in a casino, same type of location he met Natalee Holloway at a casino. From the casino, Joran took Stephanie back to his hotel room, and on May 30th, the 5-year anniversary of his beating Natalee Holloway to death, he beat Stephanie Flores to death in Peru. Reports out of Peru were that the autopsy of the young girl was very difficult to do since she was so badly beaten. After Van Sloot killed again, I went on ABC's Good Morning America and said the FBI had blood on its hands. I wanted to know then, and I want to know now, what was the FBI doing in Aruba on at least as late as May 21st, 11 days after the sting, and at least 11 days after Van Sloot was long gone in Peru, getting ready to kill again? At the time of my appearance on Good Morning America, ABC asked the FBI for a statement. The FBI said, quote, "The Birmingham investigation was not related in any way to the murder in Peru. Despite having been in motion for several weeks at the time of Ms. Flores' death, it was not sufficiently developed to bring charges prior to the time Van Sloot left Aruba." The FBI's response continued. A case based on events outside the United States is a complex matter, and work was proceeding with all deliberate speed to prepare the evidence, the charges, and the necessary procedures to obtain custody of Van Sloot, end quote. That statement, that's ridiculous. It was a complete dodge. It didn't answer the question. What were the agents doing between May 10th and the 21st? Because Van Sloot slipped out and went to murder again. And as I noted, Van Sloot was long gone by May 14th, so for another week, what were these agents doing? So of course I'm suspicious, but I'm not the only one suspicious. On April 5th, the House Judiciary Chairman Jim Joran sent a letter to the Birmingham FBI's office. It reads in part, quote, "We believe the Birmingham field office may possess documents that shed light on how the FBI missed the opportunity to apprehend Van Sloot in 2010, end quote. Fast forward to today. That deadline to respond has come and gone. Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Ohio Congressman Jim Joran, joins me by phone. Good evening, sir. And if there's a simple explanation, good evening, sir. Why won't they just tell if there's a simple explanation? And they've ignored your letter, so now what?
Well, now everything's on the table. We want to get this information, but my gut tells me exactly what you just described, that they're embarrassed about what took place. And I will compare it to something that happened a year ago when we learned about the FBI Richmond field office had this memorandum saying if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're somehow characterized as an extremist by the FBI. They were embarrassed to give us that information. We had to press, and we finally got it. So we have to have the same attitude here because, as you rightly point out, Ms. Flores would be alive but for what took place, the idea that he was under 24-hour surveillance and yet gets away and then murders this young lady. Is just as wrong as it could be. So my gut tells me, I don't know the reason why they haven't got back with us, but my gut tells me they're probably embarrassed by whatever took place here and how they failed to keep this individual under surveillance.
Well, you're kind of denying when you say they're embarrassed, because I made a Freedom of Information Act request because I wanted their expense reports. Yep. I wanted their expense reports to find out how they were spending money after Joran Van Sloot slipped out to kill again. You know, did it look like, ordinary behavior, or does it look like regular FBI behavior, or something else? And if I'm wrong, just give me the expense reports. But I got a Freedom of Information Act request back saying that they weren't going to tell me anything because it would invade the privacy of Joran Van Sloot. I don't know what that had to do with the privacy of Joran Van Sloot, but I didn't even get a redacted response. They just said no.
Yeah. No, we'll keep pressing. And like I said, I think everything's on the table. But this is typical. Anytime we want information from, it seems like from any federal agency, it takes forever. There's this back and forth with letters, and then then sometimes we have to go to subpoena and different things. But it's always tough to get information. Whatever the subject, whatever we're doing oversight of, it's always difficult. But we'll keep pressing. And let's hope we can get this information, because you've been on this story like no one else, and everyone knows that. People appreciate your work here. I think you're entitled to get the information, just like Ms. Holloway's family and Ms. Flores' family is as well.
I imagine the people of Peru what they think, because they're the ones who, one of their nationals, and it almost seems like the FBI is just sweeping this under the rug, hoping it'll go away. But it's it's not going away with me, and apparently it's not going away with you either. And they have to answer you. I mean, you're the oversight.
Yeah, well, a lot of times it takes time, but eventually we tend to get the information and the answers that we're trying to get. So let's hope that plays out here. And we'll continue to press. But I want to thank you for your hard work and your determination to get the truth for these families who've had this tragedy happen to them.
Well, all I could say is that if it's a very simple answer, and if I'm dead wrong, all they have to tell me, and I'll call off the dogs, so to speak. Just tell us.
Yeah,
just tell us.
Just tell us. Why not just give us the facts? We're big boys and girls. We're Americans. It's our tax money at work. Give us the truth. I mean, again, not on all kinds of issues. Just give us the facts. We don't need the games. Give us the facts. We can handle it. But we think the American taxpayer, the American people, and, of course, the families who were impacted in such a devastating way deserve the truth.
Chairman, thank you very much for joining me. Chairman Jim Jordan.
Take care.